The year is 1531. The Spanish had been somewhat successful in banishing human sacrifice since they came exploring in 1517. But despite the efforts of brave and pious missionaries, very few converted to Catholicism. The Aztecs had had a long history, centuries of paganism and human sacrifice. They held tenaciously to many of the practices of their diabolical religion. After battles with the Spanish conquistadors, there was still tension between the Spanish and the indigenous people, and they had little understanding of the Catholic faith and little inclination to learn, as they saw it as a religion of the Spanish, and so they were reluctant, for the most part, with few notable exceptions, to adopt it as their own. Their bishop was Bishop Juan de Zumárraga, a very holy and pious man who could do little to convert the Aztecs. They remained attached to polygamy and other pagan practices. But the good bishop prayed to Our Lady for help. He had a great deal of confidence in the Immaculate Virgin, to whom he consecrated the future of the people of Mexico. The bishop was a devoted son of Our Lady. He consecrated this poor Aztec nation and peoples of Mexico to her, and our Blessed Mother was soon to answer his prayer in a wonderful and a miraculous way. There was a man in the village, a native Mexican, a simple and God-fearing man named Juan Diego. He was one of the few converts in these first years. For 6 years, he devoutly practiced the faith. He walked 6 miles every morning to Mass. On Saturday, December 9th, 1531, Juan Diego began his usual pre-dawn journey. As he reached Tepeyac Hill, he heard a very wonderful music descending from the top of the hill. It sounded like the sweetest melody of singing birds. Suddenly, the singing stopped, and a gentle woman's voice was heard from above the mount saying, "Juanito, Juan Dieguito." When he reached the summit, he saw a lady standing there who told him to come near. He marveled greatly at her superhuman beauty and stately bearing. Her garments were shining like the sun, and the cliff where she rested her feet was pierced with glitter. The lady thus spoke to him, "Know and understand well, you, the most humble of my sons, that I am the ever-Virgin, Holy Mary, Mother of the true God, for whom we live, of the Creator of all things, Lord of heaven and earth. I wish that a temple be erected here quickly, so that I may thereby exhibit and give all my love, compassion, help, and protection, because I am your merciful mother. Go to the Bishop of Mexico and say to him that I manifest my great desire that here a temple be built to me." Juan went straight away to the bishop and gave him the message. Bishop Zumárraga, however, did not seem to believe Juan, and he dismissed him after listening to his story. When Juan Diego returned to Tepeyac Hill, the lady again appeared to him and said, "Go again tomorrow and see the bishop, and again tell him that I, in person, the ever-Virgin Holy Mary, Mother of God, sent you." So Juan reluctantly visited the bishop's house again the next day and repeated the story. This time the bishop listened more attentively and then asked Juan to bring him some sign of proof of the story. Our Lady told Juan that she would give him a sign for the bishop on the following morning. The very next day, instead of going to the hilltop, Juan Diego took a different route to find a priest for his uncle who was gravely ill. Juan Diego was certain that Our Lady would not see him, but she appeared to him anyway along the road he had taken and asked him, "What is this, my little son? Where are you going?" Juan Diego answered, My beloved lady, God keep you. How are you this morning? Is your health good, my dearest lady? It will grieve you to hear what I have to say. My uncle, your poor servant, is sick. He has taken the plague and is near death. I am hurrying to your house in Mexico City to call a priest, to hear his confession, and to give him the last rites. When I have done this, I will return here immediately, so that I may deliver your message. Forgive me, I beg you, my lady. Be patient with me for now. I will not deceive you. Tomorrow I will come in all haste. Our Lady said, listen to what I am going to tell you, my son, and let your heart not be troubled. Do not fear that plague or any other illness or anguish. Am I not here, I who am your mother? Are you not under my protection and care? Am I not your life and health? Are you not in the folds of my mantle and in the embrace of my arms? What else do you need? Do not be grieved or disturbed by anything. She then told him that he should not worry about the sickness of his uncle, for he would not die at this time, and in fact, he was already cured. Calling herself Holy Mary of Guadalupe, she told Juan Diego to go to the nearby hilltop, where he would find flowers aplenty, even though it was winter. He found Castilian roses and gathered many and placed them in his tilma, a long cloak, which was used by Mexican Indians. Now, Castilian roses did not grow in Mexico, but they were native to the home of the bishop who came from Castile. What is more, the bishop had asked Our Lady for a sign, which happened to be Castilian roses. Juan Diego came back to the Virgin, who rearranged the flowers for him and commanded him to go to the bishop without opening the tilma until he was in the prelate's presence. After a long wait, much difficulty getting past the servants of the palace, Juan Diego finally stood before the bishop. He unfolded his tilma, and out tumbled the roses. The bishop and his attendants fell on their knees before him, for a life-size figure of the Holy Virgin was printed on the poor tilma of Juan Diego. It was December 12th, 1531. Juan Diego's uncle, Juan Bernardino, related later that at that very hour a beautiful lady appeared to him, calling herself she who crushes the serpent. Bernardino felt a profound peace come over his soul, and through his limbs a healing wave seemed to roll, filling him with strength and cooling his burning fever. Juan Bernardino was cured. The impact of Our Lady's apparition and the miracle of the Tilma was immediate. The Catholic faith spread as rapidly as it ever had since the distant first Pentecost Sunday 1,500 years ago, as word of the great miracle of the Tilma had spread. There was a sudden and stunning reversal. The Mexican nation uh, was previously superstitious under the slavery of cruelty and violence, was degraded, and through the grace and hearing of the story of Juan Diego, and going on pilgrimage to view the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, they quickly embraced the sweet invitation of our Blessed Mother. The entire nation of Mexico went from a pagan people mired in diabolical practice to a nation in love and so devoted to our Blessed Virgin Mary almost overnight. The missionaries were all but overwhelmed by the endless multitudes clamoring for instruction and baptism. Almost everywhere they traveled, entire families would come running out of their village, entreating them with signs to come and pour the water on their heads. When the numbers grew too numerous to cope with individually, the missionaries formed the men and women into two columns behind a crossbearer. As they filed past the first priest, he briefly imposed on each the oil of catechumens. Holding lighted candles and singing a hymn, they would that then converge on a second priest who stood beside the baptismal font. The columns would slowly wind back to the first priest, where with hands joined, husbands and wives would pronounce their marriage vows together, receiving the sacrament of matrimony. Several trustworthy contemporary writers noted that one missionary, a Flemish Franciscan named Peter of Ghent, baptized with his hands over 1 million Mexicans. Who will not recognize the Spirit of God in moving so many millions to enter the kingdom of Christ, wrote Father Anticoli, a Jesuit. And when we consider that there occurred no portent or other supernatural event to attract such multitudes, other than the apparitions of the Virgin, we may state with assurance that it was a vision of the Queen of the Apostles that herself called the Indians to the faith. What was it that caused such a sudden reversal among the people of Mexico? Well, surely we know the supernatural reasons. It was none other than the grace of the Holy Spirit. Just as at Pentecost so many centuries before, when the church received 3,000 converts that very first day. But what else was there that drew the people so fondly to Our Lady and to the Holy Catholic Church? The Aztecs were a very advanced civilization, but they had no written language. Instead, they kept their historical records and their literary records in a symbolic picture writing. In her heavenly wisdom, our Blessed Mother gave them a gospel teaching for the ages by symbols contained in the portrait that was emblazoned on the Tilma of Juan Diego. In this miraculous portrait of Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady stands in a luminous cloud. A grand halo surrounds her, representing the sun. The people saw that by standing in front of the sun, that Our Lady is greater than the sun, greater than their dreaded sun god was this Virgin of Guadalupe. Her feet stand on the crescent moon, signifying to the Aztecs that she has clearly vanquished their foremost deity, the dreaded feather serpent, Quetzalcoatl. Across her mantle, a strewn constellation of stars, therefore she was greater than the stars of heaven that they worshipped. She was a virgin and the queen of heavens, for the constellation Virgo rests over her womb, and the northern crown rests upon her head. So Our Lady had appeared on December 12th, 1531, and the stars that she wore are the stars of the constellations that appeared in the sky on that very day. So Our Lady stood in front of the sun, showing them that she was greater than their dreaded sun god. Her feet rested on the crescent moon. She had clearly vanquished their foremost deity, the feather serpent. Researchers discovered through an array of computer software that can calculate the position of celestial bodies at any time in history, that the constellation of stars that appeared on the Virgin's mantle are a mirror image of the star's position over Mexico City just before sunrise on December 12, 1531, the very hour and date of Our Lady's last appearance to Juan Diego on the western side of Tepeyac Hill. It was also the same hour in which she appeared to his dying uncle Juan Bernardino miles away and instructed him to tell the bishop, "Call me in my image the perfect Virgin Mary, Holy Mother of God, the one who crushes the serpent." We see further in the image of Our Lady that her hands are joined in prayer. She was greater than the Mexican gods and had vanquished them, but she was not God. By her prayerful posture, she was praying to the one who was greater than her. Her fingers pointed upward toward the black cross that appeared on her brooch at her neck. So she was pointing and praying toward the black cross, which was that of the Spanish missionaries. So by this, the Aztecs learned that her God that she was praying to was none other than the God of the Spanish missionaries, Jesus Christ, her son. The four-petal flower appeared over her womb, indicating that she was the mother of God because the flower was a special symbol of life, movement, and deity, the center of the universe. The blue-green color of her mantle showed that she was a queen, for this was the color of royalty. Our Lady wore a black belt, and that was a sign that she was with child, wearing the Aztec maternal belt. The design on her rose-colored garment, she is the queen of the earth, for she is wearing a map of Mexico, telling the Indians exactly where the apparition took place. The Aztecs understood by the humble inclination downward of her eyes and her motherly glance, this was meant for them. She was looking at her Aztec people. And for the Aztecs, a Virgin Mother was not an unfamiliar belief. Tepeyac Hill, where Our Lady appeared to Juan Diego, was a former temple site for the pagan virgin goddess Tonantzin. This goddess had required human blood sacrifice, primarily desiring women and babies. In contrast, Our Lady's countenance on Juan Diego's Tilma symbolically told them not only was she more powerful than all the gods and goddesses of the Aztec pagan religion, but that she and the child in her womb did not demand blood sacrifices. The cultural gap between the Spanish and indigenous Mexican people was bridged as only Our Lady could. There were enormous cultural differences and language barriers, yet Our Lady brought herself to the Mexican people by her very own catechesis, brilliantly presented in the symbolic imagery, and through this image expressed symbols that both the Spanish and Mexicans could understand. To the Spanish-born bishop, in whom the image was first revealed, the portrait was a sign that proved the true identity of the woman who had sent Juan Diego to give him her message, none other than the Blessed Virgin Mary. And when Juan Diego dropped the Tilma, the roses cascaded out, beautiful Castilian roses, never before seen in Mexico, from the good bishop's home region of Castile. And this is exactly what Bishop Zumarraga had asked for, and he was greatly consoled by the Virgin's image, because he had been highly alarmed by the increasingly violent clashes between the Spanish conquistadors and the indigenous people in care of the sheep of his flock. The good Bishop of Mexico, Juan Zumarraga, had consecrated his diocese, which at that time encompassed the entire territory of Mexico, and Our Lady converted the lands by a means entirely unforeseen, in our time in which modern man has also embraced human sacrifice, this time often hidden in the sterile environment of an abortion clinic. Sacrifices of millions upon millions of children in abortion have taken place. Politicians promise peace and security, but there is no peace and security. As Alexander Solzhenitsyn once said, people have forgotten God. In our day, when once more the gods of the pagans are making a comeback, and it is all around us, we must pray for Our Lady to come through once more. The salvation of souls hang in the balance, and we must do our part, as Our Lady asked for at Fatima. We must pray for the grace to be faithful, and Our Lady, through her apparition and great miracle of the Tilma of Juan Diego in 1531, gives us an assurance in our very time that as she helped her children of Mexico through the prayers of a pious bishop, Bishop Zumarraga, a bishop after her own heart, so too one day she assures us she will bring peace to the entire world by the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart by a pious pope along with the bishops of the world. We must pray for this. We must trust and have confidence. We have confidence and love, especially in our sweet Mother, the Virgin Mary, the Mother of the true God, Our Lady of Guadalupe. As she said, "Am I not here, I who am your mother? Are you not under my protection and care? Am I not your life and health? Are you not in the folds of my mantle, in the embrace of my arms? What else do you need? Do not be grieved or disturbed by anything." Amen. Indeed, what else do we need? God bless you all.